Act 1, Scene 5, the first meeting between Romeo and Juliet, is one of the most important scenes in the play. By this point, you should be able to quote the "O she doth teach the torches to burn bright" speech, and indeed the sonnet, "If I profane with mine worthiest hand," etc., from memory. If not, I'm sure there are plenty of other revision videos about these key parts. I'm just going to talk about a bit from the very end of the play. Everyone is leaving after the end of the party. Juliet essentially wants to know who Romeo is, and so she's asking the nurse. She asks about random gentlemen, this son of old Tiberio, young Petruchio, so completely random and unimportant characters. And then finally she gets around to asking who that person who would not dance is. The nurse says, "I know not," although she clearly does. Perhaps she's trying to draw Juliet's attention away from him. And then Juliet says, "Go ask his name. If he be married, my grave is like to be my wedding bed." Oh dear, it's Romeo. So a few things at work in this very short quotation, and a few ideas to which this can refer. First of all, dramatic irony. The audience knows that this will happen. We know, of course, that the star-crossed lovers will die. The word grave, ominous prefiguration, it's imagery of death. Death, the idea of fate, and so on. Foreshadowing, you know this very well by now. Of course, the most interesting part of this quotation is the juxtaposition that's inherent to it. Juliet might be intending it as an oxymoron, but ironically she doesn't know the truth. Remember in Act 1, Scene 1, Scene 2, etc., Romeo, in fact not Act 1, Scene 1, that's the battle between them. It's your exam, not mine. It is Act 1, Scene 1. I was right after all, I'm always right. Sorry, Act 1, Scene 1, Romeo uses lots of oxymorons, loving, hate, feather of lead. Yes, feather of lead is the classic one. If you want to remember one really rubbish oxymoron, it's feather of lead. Why? As we've discussed, it's because when he's in love with Rosaline, he's in love with the idea of being in love. Oxymorons and rubbish poetry were fashionable, and so Romeo's doing essentially what young lovers were meant to do, spout rubbish poetry. I don't want to waste time because this is your revision, but I do enjoy a bit of rubbish poetry now and again. Anyway, I wonder, and I may be wrong, I'm probably not wrong, but this is the first time I've thought of this. I wonder if Juliet is intending "my grave is like to be my wedding bed" as one of these rather thoughtless, throwaway, cliched oxymorons. She's being rather melodramatic, uttering this oxymoron without thinking, reflecting how at this point in the play she is still quite young and naive. We know, of course, that Juliet matures greatly throughout the play. She becomes a strong and almost admirable female figure. At this point she is still young and naive. She has not experienced true love and so on. So perhaps the only reason she says this is to rather hyperbolically, as one might do in the modern day, say, "Oh, if he's married, if he's not available, then I'll just die," in that fairly exaggerated way that people do, but not knowing, of course, that this is what will happen. So once again, dramatic irony, and the audience knows the truth, but she doesn't.